thousands of victims, thousands of angry, grieving families.
I prefer to call it death dealer. That's what these fentanyl dealers really are. They're death dealers.
And for every death, the knowledge that someone sold these toxic drugs.
I've been angry for so long. I was angry for so long at that person.
So why are so few dealers held accountable for the deaths caused by the drugs they sell? And should they be charged with murder?
And if my daughter died, I would go out hunting that person down and taking their life.
Brianna Martin's story is one of heartache. She died at home last year after taking fentanyl. She was 27. And like most victims of toxic drugs, no one has been charged directly in her death.
She's just always having fun in random places.
We've come to the small city of Nanaimo to meet Brianna's boyfriend, Stephen Whitehead. He watched as she struggled with cocaine, then with heroin. In the months before she died, she overdosed repeatedly. She was even intubated. He felt powerless.
What I remember is the dog's face every single time that she overdosed. That's what I remember. That look of disappointment and sadness that the dog had and worry. And that was pretty hard.
Frustrated, Whitehead turned to an unlikely ally.
I don't mind that you sell it to her. Appreciate you being on top of quality and safety.
He texted Brianna's drug dealer and asked him to stop selling to her. That dealer said he'd do what he could.
I just want to get paid for what I'm owed, and I'll block Bree's number and never deal with her. Trust me, I don't want the drama or the karma on me as well.
Look at the log, I've lifted it.
But with that door closed, Brianna looked elsewhere for drugs, and another dealer filled the void. Days later, she was dead.
I realized that the more people that stopped dealing with her, the only ones that were left were going to be the ones that didn't care if they killed her.
So who sold toxic drugs to Brianna Martin, and did they know they could kill her? A search warrant obtained by CBC reveals the steps police took to try to solve that mystery. Nanaimo RCMP searched her phone, hoping to implicate someone in her death. They tracked license plates from the cul-de-sac where she bought drugs and tried to pinpoint her last dealer. In the months since we started looking into Brianna's death, we've talked to a number of the people in her life. Most importantly, her mother, who was going to sit down and talk to us, but became so despondent recently that she said she just couldn't do it. One thing she did tell me, though, is that she wants to see whoever sold the drugs that killed her daughter pay for what they've done.
For the first time in California, according to the Placer County District Attorney's Office, a judge Friday convicted a fentanyl dealer for murder.
Don't come to Placer County to sell fentanyl. You might pay for it with a life sentence.
In California, fentanyl traffickers are already paying a high price for dealing in death. In November, the state passed a new law that makes it easier to charge dealers with murder. It's called Alexandra's Law, and it's named after Alexandra Capilouto. She was Matt Capilouto's daughter.
The drug dealer ended up selling her counterfeit oxycodone pills, of which she took half of one before going to bed. And my wife found her dead in her bed the next morning. This drug dealer, or I prefer to call it death dealer, that's what these fentanyl dealers really are. They're death dealers.
The man who sold Alexandra the drugs got 9 years for drug trafficking, not murder. But Capilouto knew who he was long before the law caught him. Did you want to sort of confront him, or what? How do you...
I had to constrain myself because, we were able to identify who this man was semi-early on. I knew where he lived, and I just had to trust that the right outcome would eventually happen. And fortunately, it did happen. But to answer your question, that was for a dad, that was a challenging time.
My family was one of the lucky ones who did find a semblance of justice.
Capilouto channeled that anger into action. He fought for years to make Alexandra's Law a reality. It gives dealers a last chance warning.
So what Alexandra's Law is, it's an admonishment that would be given to anybody convicted of a drug offense, making them aware of the dangers of those drugs, and that if they continue in this activity and someone dies as a result of drugs that they supply, they can be held accountable for murder.
In the United States, murder convictions for fentanyl dealers have made headlines. In Canada, the toughest charge they're likely to face is manslaughter, but even that is rare.
It seems to the average individual that you sell something to somebody that you know might kill them, you committed a murder. You know what I mean?
Well, I think it's difficult for some people to understand what's required in an investigation.
Cash Heed gets the drive behind Alexandra's law. He's BC's former top cop and was the head of Vancouver's drug squad.
I have a young daughter. She's 17 years old. If someone sold her something that caused harm to her, I would want to seek vengeance against that individual, and if my daughter died, I would go out hunting that person down and taking their life. In all honesty, that's exactly what I would do.
Heed has long pushed for Canadian police to go after drug dealers, not users.
What do you think about that idea of charging somebody with murder if they've knowingly sold a drug to somebody that can and has killed them?
If they knowingly, and that's what we really have to face here. Absolutely, in my opinion, that person should be pursued and prosecuted.
So how often does that happen? You know, this methodical going after that individual?
Seldom.
But Heed cautions that prosecution is just part of a crisis that's driven by endless demand.
In the course of your career, you must have spoken to drug dealers who have sold, drugs that have killed people. What do they think?
They tell me that there's so much money to be made. If they're not doing it, someone else is going to be making that money.
The market for drugs is bottomless. That was on display even during our short visit to Nanaimo. We saw a coroner called to another death from toxic drugs, one of nearly 100 in this small city last year.
You've had experiences with overdoses. Like, how many have you had?
28.
28?
We met 26-year-old Bruce Brown in downtown Nanaimo. He's been using drugs since he was a teenager. He writes his name on his hand in case a paramedic or coroner needs it.
The people that are selling fentanyl, do you think they think about the possibility it could kill someone like you?
No, I think the only thing that's on their mind is money.
Brown says many dealers are users themselves, and he doesn't think charging them with murder will make any difference.
Will it stop fentanyl from being on the streets or the selling of drugs?
I'm not too sure, but no, I don't think so.
Stephen Whitehead has spent the past year thinking about what should happen to whoever sold toxic drugs to Brianna Martin.
If they do find them and then send them to jail, it's just like it would almost be kind of like a hollow victory, because another person would just take their place and then another Brianna would die. Like, do I want revenge or do I want solutions at this point? I've been angry for so long. I was angry for so long at that person.